it's time for our update. So leave your like. And if you're new here, take the opportunity to subscribe. This is very important for the channel to continue growing and bringing you better and better content. Because here, the commitment is daily with everything that happens in the Detroit Lions team. This is your home when it comes to news. Thank you very much for your like and for your subscription. Without further delay, let's go straight to the news. Last Wednesday, the NFL was surprised by an unexpected move. The Pittsburgh Steelers sent wide receiver George Pickens and a 2027 6th-round pick to the Dallas Cowboys. In exchange, the Steelers received a 2026 3rd-round pick and a 2027 5th-round pick. On paper, it seems like a balanced trade. After all, Pickens is young, talented, and many analysts believe that he has not yet reached his true potential. Perhaps because he has never had a quarterback who is up to par. Immediately after the trade, the internet was filled with guesses about which teams should have been involved in this negotiation. The Buffalo Bills and Denver Broncos emerged as obvious names, with NFL Spin Zone's Lou Scattaglia pointing out that they will deeply regret sitting out the deal. But it was when the Detroit Lions were included in the conversation that the analysis lost touch with the facts. It's true that the Lions have unfinished business at wide receiver. Amon-Ra St. Brown is an established star, but who will take over as the second target in the passing attack is still an unknown. Jameson Williams, while he has shown flashes of what he can do, has yet to establish himself as the dominant WR2 that fans had hoped for. Detroit also added Isaac Taslaya in the 2025 draft, a move that raises questions about the franchise's confidence in Williams. So it's not entirely out of the question that a Williams for Pickens trade could have been on the table. But here's the kicker. The Lions have never shown any real interest in Pickens. They haven't discussed him internally, they haven't made inquiries, and frankly, it's never been a possibility. Therefore, it is impossible to regret something that was not even considered. In addition, there's a glaring difference between the profiles of George Pickens and Jameson Williams. That goes far beyond the statistics on the field. Pickens forced his way out of Pittsburgh with unprofessional behavior. He stopped following the team on social media, showed frustration publicly, and had moments of disinterest on the field. Williams, on the other hand, despite an irregular trajectory, so far immersed himself in the Lions culture, embracing Dan Campbell's philosophy. In Detroit, no blocking, no ball is more than a motto. It is a mentality, and Williams has shown himself to be one of the receivers most willing to do this. Dirty work, something that Pickens never embraced. This difference in attitude is crucial on a team that values collective identity more than individual talents with inflated egos. Another point that weighs against Pickens is the moment in his career. He is entering the final year of his contract, and with that comes the pressure to renew. Or worse, the threat of instability in the locker room if financial expectations are not met. The Lions are building something solid based on discipline and commitment. Adding a player with the potential to make a splash in the locker room would be like pouring oil on Dan Campbell's perfectly tuned gears. The front office has been careful with the pieces it brings into the roster, and Pickens doesn't fit the profile of the player they're looking for. This makes it even clearer. The Lions didn't pass up a golden opportunity. They simply recognized that this offer didn't make sense for the franchise's current situation and philosophy. So to say that the Lions should regret it is a misreading. They didn't make this trade not out of carelessness or neglect, but because they fully understood that Pickens wasn't the answer. If Jameson Williams really doesn't show improvement in 2025, it might be time to look for another WR. But that someone would need not only talent, but also the right mindset to wear a Detroit jersey. Pickens never was, and never will be, that guy. And the Lions, by sticking to their guns, show they are thinking long term. Something rarely seen in a league where the rush for immediate success dictates so many poor decisions. The Detroit Lions have been perilously close to achieving their dream of playing in the Super Bowl in recent seasons. But as fans are already tired of knowing, the team has come up short in the playoffs once again. With each passing year, the expectation grows, the pressure increases, and the frustration builds. In 2023, the team finally broke a 32-year drought without playoff wins. It was an epic moment for the fans who saw their team overcome past ghosts and once again rank among the great powers of the NFL. But now, with the ultimate goal clearer than ever, an inevitable question arises. What is needed to take the final step? The answer may lie in a bold and entirely plausible trade that would change the fate of the franchise forever. Despite the recent success, harsh reality hit hard at the end of the 2024 season. The Super Bowl dream was crushed by an avalanche of injuries, especially at the heart of the defense. Aiden Hutchinson, who was having the best campaign of his career, had his season cut short by a serious injury in Week 6. And that was just the beginning of the nightmare. Key players like Ali McNeil also ended up on injured reserve, dismantling a defensive unit that had previously sustained the team in the most critical moments. In all, 21 players were out of action by the end of December, and even so, the Lions fought bravely until the end. But bad luck and lack of depth took their toll. The reward for the excellent campaign was a bye in the first round of the playoffs as the NFC's #1 seed. But that wasn't enough to contain Jayden Daniels and the surprising Washington Commanders. Daniels, one of the NFL's most promising rookies, destroyed Detroit's defense with 299 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and absurd accuracy in his passes. What stood out most in this game, besides the 5 disastrous turnovers committed by the Lions, was the total lack of pressure on the opposing quarterback. Not a single sack was recorded. Aiden Hutchinson, even after just 5 games in the season, led the team with 7.5 sacks, 3.5 more than the second-place player. This is alarming. It is clear that the defense is too dependent on a single player. And this dependence is dangerous, especially when that player is recovering from a very serious injury. Aiden broke his tibia and fibula in a single play, and sports injury specialists have expressed real concern about his recovery. Even with all the staff's optimism, there is no guarantee that he will return to the same level. Therefore, the board needs to act urgently. The solution? Strengthen the pass rush immediately and aggressively. And there is one name that stands out: TJ Watt. The Pittsburgh Steelers star, unhappy with his contract situation, seems to be the perfect piece for this machine. Watt is experienced, dominant, and hungry for a title. Exactly the type of player who can change the level of a defense. At 30 years old, TJ Watt is still in his prime and is coming off another spectacular season. 12 sacks despite dealing with an ankle injury. In 2021, he was named NFL Defensive Player of the Year, in addition to being named to the All-Pro on 6 occasions and a Pro Bowler in the last 7 seasons. His resume is elite. What makes this trade even more logical is that the Steelers are going through a moment of total uncertainty at the quarterback position. And even if they bring in a veteran like Aaron Rodgers, the roster doesn't seem ready to compete right now. Meanwhile, the Detroit Lions, with a young, well-structured roster that is hungry for a title, are clearly in the 2 to 3 year window to win the Super Bowl. This is where the aggression needs to come into play. The Lions have $42 million in cap space, the 4th most in the NFL, which gives them plenty of flexibility to absorb Watt's contract and still offer him the extension he so desperately wants. Of course, the deal won't be cheap. It will likely require a first-round pick and perhaps some additional compensation. But when you're this close to something big, you can't hesitate. Adding Watt would take some pressure off Hutchinson, allow the defense to be more creative, and most importantly, bring leadership and a winning mentality to a locker room already hungry for glory. In other words, TJ Watt could be the final piece of the puzzle. If Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell truly believe this is Detroit's moment, now is the time to prove it. The foundation is in place, the pillars are in place, and the fans are more passionate than ever. But big things require big decisions. TJ Watt isn't just a big-time addition. He's a statement of intent. With him alongside Hutchinson, the Detroit Lions will go from being a promising team to becoming one of the favorites for the title. The opportunity is knocking. It remains to be seen whether Detroit will have the courage to open it. Now I want to know from you, if the Detroit Lions have the chance to bring in TJ Watt for a first-round pick and a good contract, would you be up for this trade? In my opinion, if we are really talking about fighting for the Super Bowl in the next 2 years, this is the move that separates those who want to compete from those who want to win. And you, fan, would you go all in? Leave your opinion in the comments. Are you for or against this trade? And also take the opportunity to like the video, which really helps the channel to continue growing and bringing quality content about the Lions. Let's chat in the comments. See you soon.